Hey guys, so in this video I'll be using this miniature dress form as usual. If you've been following the channel, you must have seen that dress form once or twice because I use it for illustrations like this. So my subscriber sent me this picture to actually make an illustration for her, and that's what I'm going to be doing right here. This is a pattern I have made on this channel and I have shared the video. I took my time to explain it, how to make it to an adult size. I also stitched it together to show you how contoured this pattern is. So this one on the table right here is just a little size for this dress form I'm working with right now. So without saying too much, I'll just go ahead and show you how to make the picture on the thumbnail, the top. So this pattern is to the half cut, and so I'll have to adjust it to actually get it to reach the hip area, because the top I'm making is going to get to the hip area. So the shoulder to hip area of this dress form is about 12 inches. So I just placed it there and I got the hip point, which is 12 inches. So I'll go ahead now to extend this pattern to get to the hip points, and I labeled this line so that you get to understand what I'm doing here. So that's the waist point, this is the bust area, and the new line is the hip line. So I'll take my measurements of the round hip divided by 4 and I'll mark it on that line, connect it, and this is the new pattern I'll be working with. It's not difficult. So if you're doing this for an adult, just go back to the other video I made and you'd understand how to do this, because when you're doing this for an adult, you'll definitely be working with a bust here. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So I just extended the line and I added a little allowance for the seam allowance. So as usual, when you're making darts from the hip, you have to go up by the hip before you connect the darts. So this is what I just did here, and this is really easy to do. So once you've drafted your front pattern the way you'd want it to look, you just make sure you extend the chest line, the same chest line. After contouring your body, you use that same chest line for the front. At the back, extend the waistline, extend the hip line and the seam allowance line. So once this is done, of course, you're going to create your darts at the back and you add some zip allowance at the center back area. So the difference between the back and the front of this particular top is going to be that the back full length is going to be shorter. So if you see where I drew the line there, you see that it is higher. So for an adult, it could be about 4 inches below the waistline or even 3 inches below the waistline. But the front is going to get to the hip points. Okay, so don't get confused. Just rewatch this in case you don't understand what I just said. The front and the back have different full lengths. This is intentional. By the time I'm stitching, you're going to understand it. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut out all these patterns and show you what next to do. So when you are cutting, you want to make sure that you cut according to the points, the areas where you're supposed to cut. The other video where I took my time to explain these things will help you in case you've not seen that video yet. It's very important because that pattern was so contoured and it was so perfect on the dress form I worked with. It was for an adult size, so you can relate to all the measurements I used there. So now I cut out the back part, and this is the time to cut this on a fabric. So I use this fabric just for the sake of the illustration, and as you can see, the center front is going to be on a folded area. That's the only piece that's going to be on a fold. So you place this and you cut. If you did not add seam allowance, that's your seam allowance to your princess darts, make sure you add about 1/2 inch when you are cutting on the pieces. So these are my pieces after cutting, and please, whatever you did on the fabric, you have to cut the same thing on your lining. I hope you understand what I just said. You have to cut the same thing on your lining, the same thing. So you just mark your wrong side. This is going to help you, especially if you're a beginner, so you don't mix up these things. So I went to stitch them together, and of course they formed our main front bodies. So this is, you can see that the length got to the hip area, and this is intentional. So at the point where you'd have joined the front and you get the back, you see that the front is longer. Of course, this is how we wanted it to be. So after joining the darts, it's at this point we would now decide how to get our neckline, because the darts was in the way at that time. So one important thing you need to know is that you also need to stitch your lining the same way you have it here, because you'll be needing it to actually get the neckline. So now I'll just use this piece of paper to illustrate if this were my lining. So my lining, of course, I would have joined it the same way we have it here, and I would now come to the neckline and try to trace the neckline we have on that picture. So that neckline is something like a square. It was deep and it goes close to the armhole area. So you want to take note of the person's princess dart line before you create this neckline. So all these things depend on your preference and what the customer or the client or whoever you're making it for wants. So you're going to cut this and you're going to cut it on your lining as well. But please, you have to be very careful when you're cutting the lining for this piece. You want to make sure that the lining, the right side of the lining is facing the right side of the fabric. So I did not do a lining for this, obviously, because I'm just showing this as an illustration. So I just used this piece of fabric to show you. Make sure the right side of your lining is facing the right side so that you can use it to turn the neckline. So now for the waistline area, you're just going to mark your waist point. And from that waist point, you can come down by that. You take note of how many inches you left at the back, and then you place it on the front as well. Then you take the same amount of inches on the front bodies. I really hope you understand this. So this is why you need to keep your patterns until you're done making a dress before you throw them away. So you want to make sure that these sides will align by the time you're ready to stitch them. So at the point when you've matched up the side seams, you're going to come down to the princess line point, because on that picture you can see that that sharp point is at the princess line area. So you just connect it down back to that height like that. It's really easy, and then you're going to create your basque waistline. So this basque is actually an asymmetric basque, so that's why we can't do it on the pattern. You must stitch first, join all the darts before you do that. And please, when you're doing your lining, please take note of this same thing I was showing on the neckline. You have to place it right sides facing right sides before you cut out the basque. Don't make a mistake, because you're going to spoil your lining piece. Okay, so you cut this out and you get your basque waistline just like this. By the time you join on the side seams, you're going to see that the side seams will align and you're going to have your basque like this. So I'm going to go ahead now and actually stitch this together to show you how it looks. So this is what it looks like. And now, disclaimer, please, you really need to take note of something. This pattern, this method is only going to work if you are using this pattern that I showed you on this channel. If you've not watched this video, you really need to go and watch it. I'm not begging you because I need views or something. I'm saying this because if you don't use this pattern to create this kind of neckline, the upper part is going to gape a lot and you would hate the outcome, because the upper part is going to be so loose and it's not going to be contoured. So please, you can only use this method I'm showing you if you're using that pattern I taught on that video. If you're not going to use the pattern I showed how to do on this channel, please use another method, which is the off-shoulder method, where you calculate how many inches of strap you're going to take out. That way you have a more accurate result. I really hope this video was helpful to the person that asked, and I'll see you guys in my next video. If you know you'd like to request for any video, you can contact me on Instagram. I'll be so happy to respond to you and create an illustration for whatever you want to learn. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.